So I don't know if Elena is still nearby, but Elena, I want you to know that if I were a singer, which I'm not really, I like to sing, but if singing were my primary way of communicating with you all, that's the song I wish I could sing to you. And I'm grateful that we could bring it through the Bangsons video to you all this morning. But I do have a message for you all today. And I want you to know, the song we just listened to said, we're making this up as we go. And I feel that so much. So my message this morning is a little bit different than the plan I made even a couple of weeks ago. It is still inspired in part by a trip that I took with my family this summer when I was on sabbatical. And there'll be a couple of pictures here as we go along. So there we all are as we're starting out in our minivan for a cross-country trek. And we took advantage of our fourth graders national park pass, and we visited some beautiful places, and we were able to visit extended family that we hadn't seen in at least 3 years, if not more. And so here we are as we're starting out. I have a kiddo in my room here saying hello. And as anyone who has ever been a kid on a road trip or been with a kid on a road trip knows, the classic question always is, are we there yet? And very often the next one is, how much longer? How much longer do we have? So I've been back with you for 2 weeks since the end of my sabbatical, and there are many of you that I have not yet been able to have a conversation with, but the conversations I have had have seemed to focus on this question: are we there yet? When are we going to be there? How much longer? And they're questions not about just our community, but about sort of where we are in this pandemic right now. We are so ready to get there, but we have no idea how much longer it's going to take, actually. And I want to just point out this morning that the question, are we there yet, is usually a question asked from the back seat by the folks who aren't doing the driving, who feel like they have no control over the direction or the arrival time. And it's a question asked by folks when we are impatient with where we are. Maybe the view is boring, or we're tired of being stuck in the car and we need to stretch our legs, or we just need a break from who we've been traveling with, right? I want to share with you my partner Katie's strategy when we're on a long trip and the kids ask, how much longer? She's taken to answering the question with just a random number. So the kids will ask, how much longer? And she'll say 9. And they'll say, 9 what? 9 minutes? 9 hours? Just 9 or 15 or 27. And this either infuriates the kids or quiets them because they are so confused. Well, like many of you, I myself have been cycling between fury, rage, and confusion these days as the Delta variant runs rampant, especially through the South, where, as y'all know, fewer mitigation measures are being taken. We could have taken a different road, but those in the driver's seat made decisions to bring us on this route, more dangerous and with more winding curves than we want. While we don't have control over who chooses to get vaccinated, our elected officials do have control over how we collectively will mitigate the impacts of this virus. So Amy Beth, if you could move to the next picture. I'm gonna now speak a little bit more personally than I often do during my messages, and I have gotten permission from my family to do so. Yesterday, I spent 3 hours at a pediatric urgent care center to get one of our children tested for COVID, because on Friday, she came home from school, she was feeling bad, she was congested and coughing, and Friday night she had a rough night. So I arrived at the pediatric urgent care 10 minutes before they opened, and the parking lot was already full, friends. A nurse was going from car to car to take people's names and phone numbers. And when we were finally called inside an hour and a half later just to get registered, they were telling people who were arriving that the wait would be over 6 hours. I saw one parent bringing in her young daughter who she was certain had just an ear infection, look just defeated, knowing that she was not going to hang out there for 6 hours to have her daughter seen so she could get some antibiotic for an ear infection. And last night, one of our kids slept on the couch and another slept on the floor in our room so that we could at least try to pretend to give the one who was feeling bad a little bit of space. It is entirely possible that it's just a cold, but we won't know until we get the test results back, which will be Monday at the very earliest. And the physician we saw said that it is taking longer right now to get test results back because the demand for testing is higher. And it is pretty impossible to get a rapid test in our community right now. If you know how, let me know. We looked to get an appointment or to get a take-home rapid test. So the result of this is that none of my kids will be going to school on Monday. If the test results are positive, it will be longer than that. Now look, I want y'all to know, like in the immediate sense, my family is fine. My kid, I am hopeful, can't be 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure she's going to be just fine. There are moments of worry though. And folks, I need y'all to know, if you don't know already, that in a general sense, parents of young children are not fine right now. Those of us who have been trying our hardest during this pandemic to be ethical actors, to keep down the community spread of the virus in order to protect our own children who can't be vaccinated yet, as well as the general population, are seeing both the physical and emotional well-being of our kids sacrificed. Y'all, parents at my kids' school have been making our own classroom spreadsheets so that we can share information and do our own contact tracing, because our public health systems and our school systems are failing us. Sometimes on the way to where we're going, we have to slow down for others in the road. So if you are a grown person not currently parenting children, I ask you to do 2 things this morning. 1, please contact the superintendents and Board of Education members in our communities and tell them that you feel it is important that schools be doing everything they can to mitigate the spread of COVID, including mask mandates. Tell them you're not a parent, but you care for the children in our community and you care for the public health in our community. And number 2, give a call to any parents you know. Choose 1 or 2 and just check in on them. Ask them if they're all right. Ask them if they need anything. And of course, if you're not vaccinated yet, I urge you to get vaccinated now. The children are only as healthy as the herd. All right, Amy Beth, we're ready for the next picture. So a little levity. We played a lot of Uno on our road trip, a lot. Let me tell you, these kids are pretty cutthroat Uno players. And there were some times when the grown-ups had a different plan. We wanted to go explore another trail or see another site, but the kids were like, nope, we're just going to stay in the campsite and play some Uno for a while. So here's the lesson I bring to you from this today. While we need to plan ahead and be strategic and make careful choices about what we're going to do, sometimes we've just got to be flexible, stop, change plans, and dare I say it, play and have some fun, whatever that looks like. We have to keep making this up all up as we go. So Amy Beth, you can take the pictures down for this final bit here. And I want to acknowledge I'm going to be speaking just directly to us as a collective, as a congregation. I so want us to be back together in person. And there were times early on in my sabbatical when I was imagining what that might be like this fall, hoping that we could at least in some way be gathering for worship in person. I really expected that we'd be there by now. I miss being physically gathered, hearing one another's voices, feeling your presence. And this morning, I just feel incredibly sad that all of the counties in Tennessee, the whole state, is at the highest level of community transmission, according to CDC metrics. And according to the COVID Act Now data, as of this morning, Blount County, Sevier County, Knox County are all in the severe risk category, up from very high just earlier this week. As I said just a minute ago, it did not have to be this way. And maybe we'll have a service later on in the fall about dealing with our rage and anger about that. Or maybe we'll just have a time when we can all scream together. But I did just say something about having fun. Even now, we have got to reconnect again with the creative energy we had at the beginning of this pandemic when we all figured out lots of ways to have fun and keep going. This week, I had a great conversation with our board. And Amy Beth, if you're able to take the picture down, that would be great. My poor kids don't want to be up all this long. So this week I had a great conversation with our board. We know we're in a time of high community transmission. We know we aren't anywhere close to recommending that we hold indoor gatherings with one another. But we also know this time is not going to last forever, and we know there's a strong need among us to be together. We're not there yet, but we're looking out for that day. We're starting to plan for possible outdoor gatherings this fall. And we talked about some of the precautions that we'd require everyone to take in order to make that possible. And we talked about what risk levels we're willing to offer that opportunity. And no final decisions have been made. This week, you can expect to get a survey in your email asking your input. We really need to hear from as many of you as possible. Among other things, this survey will ask you to self-disclose your vaccination status, and I'll ask you to share a little bit about where you are in your own risk tolerance these days. You know, one of the principles that has been guiding our decisions during this pandemic is the principle of inclusion. And I want to take just a moment to speak to that. Of course, we have a range of risk tolerance and behavior in our congregation. And some of us have more choice about that than others. What do I mean? Well, There are those of us who are able to choose to stay quite restricted, and those of us who are choosing to be out and about more. There are those who are choosing to get vaccinated and those who aren't. And I'm simply saying that as fact, not necessarily with judgment. We have to keep in mind that we are a diverse community here. There are the others among us who don't have choice about this. For instance, there are those who must work in settings where there are little or no precautions being enforced, or those among us who are unable to be vaccinated because of age or because of pre-existing conditions. And so I believe that we must continue to look at our decisions based on inclusion of those who are most at risk and have the least choice. Now, our congregation is quite a bit bigger than the people who show up on Zoom on Sunday morning. Some of this is a personal preference issue, and some of this is an inclusion issue. There is a range of personal preferences regarding online worship. Some people love it, others don't, for a variety of reasons. In addition to the preference issue, there are inclusion issues. For some people, online worship is the most inclusive for reasons of time or ability, accessibility, transportation. And we know online worship can be inaccessible to some because of technology barriers. So I'd like to nudge us together as a community. I'd like to nudge us to be clear about when we're talking about personal preference and when we're talking about inclusion and barriers to worship and how we worship together. There are always going to be lots of varying personal preferences about worship, and we will never be able to meet all of those needs. However, we can center inclusion in our decision making. It is part of our job as leaders and members of this congregation. And by the way, if there's someone in this congregation who you haven't seen here on Zoom for a while or for a really long time, I really, really encourage you to pick up the phone and call them. Say hello. Are you all right? Are you okay? Do you have enough to eat? Are you getting enough sleep? What's bringing you joy? And by the way, here's a little bit of happiness from my life right now. And I want to hear some more creative ideas from you all about other ways, in addition to looking towards some larger outdoor gatherings when we feel we are able, other ways we can see one another. I know some of the root groups are doing outdoor small group gatherings, and that is awesome. If you have ideas for other things, let's put them out there. One thing that I was going to bring to you all today, and some of us talked about it a bit before the service, is like, how about a drive-by garden bounty swap? I have so much basil in my garden. I would love to give some away. Some of you have too much zucchini. Let's set up a table and have people drive by someday, leave what they're ready to give away, and take something from others. There's more than one way to make it down this road that we're on, y'all. 17 months ago, what did we know? We thought we knew a lot, but continuing to find out how little we are, making this up as we go. Let's go slow. Let's stay together. Figure out ways to have fun along the way. Y'all are amazing. We have done and will continue to do amazing things together. It's the only way we've made it this far. For that, I am incredibly grateful. I celebrate us, celebrate our ingenuity and our deep connections. Let's keep going on. May it be so. Amen.